Okay, ladies, we're back for the organ section. And then Rhonda has some things to share on the spiritual end of things for this biblical month that we're entering. And so the organ or organs for this month are the right hand and sight, or your eyes. So as I've been moving through training this week with Dr. Manzo out of Medina, Ohio, with his Aleph Tav body system, there's just such wonderful and at moments overwhelming points and information that he is sharing with the class. And I'm excited to focus more on that this evening, because that's really what's been coming up in my life this week. Not so much anything herbal related tonight, but just how does the human body work? And I know that we've all had health classes, science classes, but as I try and move away from the training, keep some of the training I've had over the last 35 years, 40 years of my life, but to see it in a different angle and see it through creation and not just scientifically speaking. As a nurse, it's just been overwhelming and joyful, and like I get goosebumps when I sit in class this week, because there's just so many oh wow, really, like this all just comes together. But yet on the other hand, there's so many things that Father's just giving me those pieces that he wants me to use right now. And so tonight, what I want to share with you, and I'm gonna hold up a couple things here on the screen. Erica does have one. I'll ask her to show and share here in a second if she's able to. Otherwise, in the chat, there's my email and Dr. Manzo's website and my website, and I can connect you, with any charts or any information that I can't share right now tonight if there happens to be an issue. But we do have a chart. And I guess we could put that up, Erica, if you want to share. Are you able to do that? See if it'll let you. It's going to look something like this, and it is on his website. And what he's done over several years of studying, he's located different points on the human body that all correlate with the Hebrew alphabet. And so if you take a look here, LFMs, those are life formation messenger points. And so they correlate for different systems in our bodies. And there's different cycles that we can run through. There are 6. Actually, as we get a little further in, there's actually 7, possibly 8, 7th being spiritually speaking. So that's actually not on this particular chart. But if we take a peek here on this chart, you can see the eye and of course the hand. So we're looking at the right hand and then your vision, right? So I'm going to speak to you, and so we'll take that chart off right now, Erica, but I'm going to speak to you on just some things that I've learned this week and how the Father just has so many wonderful things. And we're talking about the summer months, and right now things are turning green, and that is actually the color for cycle number 3, which is, if we take a look, this one I can't share on the screen, but I can hold it up and just give you an idea. There's a pathway that runs, if you can see, it's here at the head, runs through the eye, it'll pivot down through the body, come back up around. But if you look, and I know this is reversed, but it'll hit even into the right hand and the eyes. So the color is green. And I know that's kind of hard to explain on the spectrum of colors, but we all know who placed the rainbow in the sky and all of the beauty that comes from that. And as this pathway goes through the system, through our bodies, this particular one will head through the gallbladder, head through the liver, So let's stop and think, you know, I put in the post about being the victim. So if we carry that around with us, that can cause and lead us into anger, making our liver congested. And that's a very common thing nowadays. As we look around in society and people's reactions, Dr. Monzo brought up something today. We all have feelings, and then they move into emotion, right? So it's put in motion. And so where do we go from there? It can lead into frustration, and then it just continues to settle inside of our bodies. And that's where, instead of health, we end up with disease. And putting those two pieces of that word together, dis and ease, disease, and those things that we hold in us, of course, can affect our organs. The sense is sight. The taste is bitter. And the body systems are the brain, the eyes, the hepatic system, which is your liver and your gallbladder, your joints. So let's take a look at our hand, our wrist, our pointer finger. I'm learning a lot of times when we harbor these feelings in, I'm not sure if anybody has noticed ever in someone, but their fingers will begin to curl in later on from holding that. And I've seen it on middle-aged people where they start to curl. And that's actually energy that's trapped in there, and it sets up in your joints. The other is the thyroid. So think about the words that we speak. We talk about this on different months, but the words that we speak, and that chart I just showed you is how it flows down through our eye, in through our throat. It moves down our system and through our right hand. But also our heart is affected, in our chest. And where do we like to hold a lot of those emotions is in our heart. So I want to share with you, and it's called a cycle. There's 12 different cycles, and obviously the number 12 has a meaning, right, with the Father. But this is cycle number 3. So as I mentioned, the liver and the gallbladder, the eyes, the brain, and the sight. So when things are congested in this track, this pathway, those are the areas of our body that can become affected over time. Think about our eyes, our sight, our connective tissues, and our joints. The time that's affected on the physical clock, and you'll notice certain times of night or certain times of day, you may become tired, or if it's supposed to be a time of rest, that's a time that you'll wake. And so this cycle in particular runs between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. So if you're finding that I'm waking up, okay, at 3 a.m. on a regular basis, there may be that congestion that's affecting those organs that are trying to detox at that time, or they're trying to recirculate at that time. And so your body will wake. Some of the other things, let's think about, this is definitely the cycle that affects vision, okay, which I found it to be, that's right here in this month, right? And it's the same time with green. Green is the color of this time of year when everything is sprouting and growing. But there's other things that can affect going through here. It could be your blood. This is also known as the blood messenger pathway. So our blood is moving. It supplies, right? We know there's power in blood. Obviously, that's life. That's our life. And so some of the things that'll occur, okay? I'll just list them here. Hepatitis. That's pretty severe. but then stop and take a look at a neck that is tight and stiff, hip pain, thigh pain, waking up and still feeling tired, a dry throat. Remember, I mentioned the thyroid. So that's, of course, not your pharynx, but that travels in the same area as your thyroid. And swallowing issues. You may have nausea that's traveling down through your stomach, your esophagus into your stomach. Urination issues. That's your water, right? So these are all fluids, blood's a mover. Diarrhea, female swelling and bloating in the lower abdomen, pain in your groin, chilling or feverish feeling. So sometimes you'll feel hot, sometimes you'll feel cold. The emotional and mental segment of this pathway is anger, frustration. Think about back when Erica mentioned about being the victim, right? And the society just really encourages that, I think, to claim yourself as the victim. I'm the victim of this and the victim of that. But that's not what those trials, as Erica explained, that's to put the pressure on us, to strengthen us and turn us into something beautiful, right? He's purifying us. And so as we not that having grief is wrong, it isn't. But it's where we let it set. And then if it sits too long, it sets up house. And then we become ill in those areas. Condemnation, self-condemnation especially. Not wanting to see something. So we're looking at our eyes. We don't want to see, okay, maybe this is where Father wants me to be, but I can't do that, right? So I'm going to self-condemn. Or the finger pointing thing, right? So it's right hand. So I'll point my right finger. But, pointing that finger. Whereas it may be a direction we're supposed to be going. Confused thinking. That's exactly what the enemy wants us to have, right? Be confused. So if we flip back, Erica, if you could put the chart back up. There are certain points on our body, and I know this map will kind of look a little confusing, but if you can follow along, I'm going to list a number, and then we're going to do a little number hunt, okay? So the first one is, and this is a touch therapy, okay? The Aleph Tav body system is a touch therapy. There's other modalities you can implement into it, but it's simple, and it's calming, and yet you can do it in just a simple form. You can even sit, there's even self-application. So I'm going to give you that one first, just to show you how simple this can be. It happens to be the middle finger, okay? Just holding, embracing the entire middle finger with opposite hand, left or right, one at a time, and just gently holding that for up to 20 minutes, okay? So that'll help clear that pathway. We can't always do the points on ourselves or have someone do them for us. So that is just a simple thing. If you're finding that frustration or anger, or you're feeling those things that I just mentioned, maybe joint pain or waking up in the middle of the night, just doing a simple finger hold. And Father has our fingers, and they all have a specific thing, as I'm learning this week. Each one has a physical, or a mental, emotional, and a physical part in each digit, okay? So they're all correlated, just like our hand, as some may have studied reflexology, your hand, your foot, your ear. So everything is here. And so for this pathway will be holding the middle finger. But let's take a look. If I did a restoration of the blood messenger pathway, and this would be considered the long, so we want to hold these points up to 20 minutes, a minimum of 5 minutes. So you would take your left hand and you would touch left number 4. So if we look for number 4, it's up at the back of the neck, and at the back side of the neck, below the your occipital bone, the base of your skull. So your left hand would touch number 4, and then your right hand would touch. Okay, number 4, by the way, is the dalet. Okay, and then the right hand would touch right number 22, which is the tav. So 22 is green. It runs in the 3rd cycle. Okay, so let's take a look here, and it's up on the chest. Okay, right near your collarbone. So you would hold those 2 points at the same time with the tips, the pads of your fingers, not the tips of your finger, but the pads of. Just hold those 2 points for at least 5 minutes. Help clear that pathway. After 5 minutes, you're only going to take your right hand and move it to the right number 14, the noon. Okay, so number 14, if we look on the chart, that is in 2nd cycle. Can anyone find it? It's on the front near the rib cage. So that is only the right hand moving, while your left hand is still staying in the same original number 4. And then the right hand would move to the left side of the person, number 1, the aleph, which is right inside of the knee. Hold that for 5 minutes. After that, you would move to the hay. Your right hand would move to number 5. Some of these get a little tricky because number 5 is actually down on the inside of the ankle. And then the right hand would move to left number 18, which is the zadi. Okay, that's on the palm of the hand. And then for the final one, you take the left hand back up and it meets the right hand back to the dalet, number 4, the back of the neck. So doing that, clearing the pathway, helps restore the liver, helps restore the eyes. Each of them have a purpose. And I, of course, always pray before, and I always give thanks after, as he's the healer, right? And thank you, Erica, for sharing that. I wanted to give just a little brief explanation on this. Of course, it's a very deep program, and the manual alone is over 300 pages. But I wanted to share just what I've learned today and how do I put that in with this coming month that's coming in. And there's ways that we can work through sickness and prevent illness. And the Father is really unveiling a lot of things that I'm noticing. Whereas, 10, 15 years ago, you would hear something of this, maybe of a corrupted version, a new age version. Whereas now there's scripture that can be prayed, and it's just giving all glory back to him as he shares this with us. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, there's my email in there and Dr. Monzo's information as well, okay? All right, Rhonda.
Thank you, Tish.
Hi, everyone. This is probably one of my most favorite months. And I think that as we all walk through the months, we're going to find that through different cycles, a particular month will have some significance, some personal significance, depending on where you're at, what's going on in your life at that time. So I was reflecting because when I was thinking ahead, oh, the fourth month is coming up. I had to think, why does this month mean so much to me? Because it was a time when I was first introduced to it. There wasn't anything good about it from my perspective. So I wrote a few things concerning the straits of this month. And so I wanted to make sure, just, being, any of us teachers, we always want to fact check and make sure that we're using the exact word, for the meaning that we have in mind. And so I went ahead and checked the definition of a strait. And let's see. I'm going out of order. So, okay. So the first definition of a strait is a narrow passage of water that connects two seas or other large areas of water. And the second definition is used in reference to a situation characterized by a specified degree of trouble or difficulty, hence the term dire straits. So I pulled a couple of things from this month's themes that connected in a way to the straits for me, and I'm hoping that it will resonate with someone else here listening as well. I think before I want to go on, I just want to reiterate that much prayer goes into the preparation, and oftentimes we're all hearing the same things, whether it's Erica speaking, Tish, but from my personal point, I always feel like I'm the least knowledgeable of the three. And yet, they say this, and yet I know that when we listen to each other, whether, it's in our own group, whether we're listening to a message, the Father knows what we need ahead of time. And there's always going to be someone that resonates with what you're speaking, because those thoughts are coming from the Father. The Ruach is sending. And so when we, before we do some preparation, and I have to say again, this is the last week of school for me. And so it's been really busy, and I didn't really think I was going to make today. And yet I prayed late last night. And again, the Father, he honors when we come before him in faithfulness and in faith. So what I said to him was, Father, please bless Erica and Tish. They've put the time in, they've prepared, bless their words that it may speak into those who are listening. And I said, it's late. But if you have anything for me to share, I'm willing. So I wasn't expecting anything, but from my point, not that I wasn't expecting anything from the Father. So I flipped through my binder, and some things started popping out to me, jumping out from the page. And so I just hope someone out there is going to be blessed by what I have to share. And I entitled it Seeing the Light in the Dark Straits of Life. Because like I said, it comes from a personal place for me once upon a time. So as Erica mentioned earlier, het, a few of the meanings of het pertaining to the straits of what I'm going to speak about tonight is life, an enclosure, something fenced in, and a place of refuge. It is the 8th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the number 8 can represent transcendence, which means existence or experience beyond the normal or physical state. And that's definitely a supernatural place to be in, a place of transcendence. And when I think about people, who don't know the Father, they're always trying to achieve this place. They're always trying to arrive at this place of transcendence. And you can get there, but I think maybe that's another topic. But the Father can take us to that place. He can bring us to the place where we can speak to him and hear from him. So the 4th month marks the beginning of a new season, and it's known as a month of worship and of vision and covenant. And it also starts the long, hot summer months before Israel is refreshed again with Yahweh's fall feast. In historical tradition, there's a fast that was already mentioned in the 4th month, the fast of the 17th, which is the beginning of the 3 weeks of dire straits. It's a time of remembrance, and it marks a situation characterized, the time of mourning for the destruction of the temples. And so, as I was thinking about that, when I think about the temples, it's such a long time ago, and yet it's paired with this term dire straits, or the 3 weeks of the straits. And so I started thinking about that, and I said, what does that mean now? I can only imagine how I would feel if the place of worship where we attend was destructed, if someone came and did something to face it, or destroy it, to bring harm towards it, because we all feel like the place of where we gather and worship is a place of holiness. And so I can't imagine how it would have felt to have the temples being destroyed, not once, but twice. And so I just thought I would share a few things of, my experience of what a dire strait is. 2 summers ago in this month, I traversed a spiritual strait concerning my daughter. It was a time of intense pain and fear and mourning. And this journey was a place of darkness. Yet the faith of my fervent prayers and those that prayed with me revealed the Father's guiding work as I traveled, not seeing, just feeling the scraping pains of the walls of this place that I was in. I pushed onward in blind faith, not knowing the outcome, but trusting and believing unequivocally that the Father's promise of deliverance would bring me out of the dark place of that situation. The answered prayers in the 4th month of the following cycle revealed that the straits of the year before were no longer a place of squeezing and pain and mourning, but were now seen as an enclosure of refuge, a dark passage that provided comfort, like that in the letter Het. And so I asked myself, when I was thinking about the comparison, what was it that created such a stark difference? And the difference was perspective, sight, which is the sense of this month. Had I got stuck in the emotions of the situation and not pushed onward in blind faith, I would have missed giving the Father the opportunity to show me his might and authority in the realm I could not see. How we view our circumstances will determine whether we enter Yahweh's promises with hope, or if we blunder about in depths of blinding emotions. And so, just thinking about, I went to look up, I wanted to see a picture of what a strait looked like. And it's just this, if you Google it, it's just this narrow little place that's like a bridge. It's almost like a bridge or a canal or a tunnel between these larger bodies of water. And so when you look at a map, those bodies of water radiate light, but that little place, that strait, is very dark and narrow. And I think that oftentimes in life, we walk into those places that are narrow and dark, not knowing what's ahead, just feeling the emotions of that moment, of that situation in that place. And if we're not careful, we can almost get stuck in a place if we don't remember that if we hold on to the Father's promises, if we keep going, whether we see or not, if we can just hold on to his promise that he's with us, he's guiding us, that there's a purpose in the experience, the pain of the situation, that there's a purpose, then it won't seem like such a dark place after all. I think that when we're going through a situation, it's valid to experience all of those things: fear, anxiety. There's so many things depending on what the situation is. I can only reflect on mine. Mine was intense pain and anxiety, to the fact that I was physically sick. And as I even thinking about it now, and it's already been several years past, praise Yahweh, I still have, I can feel the turmoil in my stomach, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I was panicked. And oftentimes when we let our emotions overrule a situation in life, we panic and we don't remember the promises that the Father has for us. But it's also that dire strait, that dark place in a situation can also be the place where you have nothing else to do but to call out to the Father, because you can't see anything. Your perspective is just blinded. You cannot see anything because you're consumed with feeling, right? So if we can just stop, it's a place, that place I learned the following year is a place of quietness. It's a place where we can hear the Father as he speaks to us, because our emotions, though they're there, they're not overruling us. And so I learned that in the scraping of that situation, the pain that I experienced, I learned to have an appreciation in the next cycle. An appreciation, because when the Father, we never know his time frame, right? When we're in a situation and it feels awful, we want it to end just like that, right? But there's a purpose in his time. And I think that with time grows appreciation for the situation, because then we can look back with insight and we can say, oh, this is what the Father was doing. This is what he was saying. This is what his intent was. This is what happens. Like, because then when we come out of the strait into the light, then we can look back and see, we can reflect then and see the things that, what came out of that. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. So maybe, so I guess what I want to say is, as we approach the dire straits of Tammuz this month, let's draw on some helps that we've been giving in this fourth month. Everything that I'm going to mention has already been spoken about, touched upon this evening, but I think it was interesting how the Father led me to just kind of group them together. And so I'm just going to go through the things that I was shown. So if we look to these, the sense for a help, it's our sight. So we can pray for spiritual sight to see what's really going on. The mendot is truth, honor, and long suffering. And as a disciple, we can help to remain to be aware of the responsibility to the truth of Yahweh's promises in his word, displaying long suffering as we wait. A help in the mazel, the crab. I had the thought that just as a crab has a hard shell to protect its soft innards, let us pray for a shell of faith, protecting us from the scraping effects of traveling through the narrow straits of a painful situation. I think that, that outer protection serves us well, because it's almost like a callus. When we go through things and we come out, And we can look back and see the Father's hand in that situation, and we can reflect and see what we've learned from that situation. That's just another layer of protection that we've been given. And it's something that will strengthen us, just as the shell of this crab protects itself. Help that we can get from spiritual warfare is negativity and fear responses. We have to remember that we cannot allow ourselves to shrink back into shells of fear. We want a shell of protection, and we don't want to be enclosed in a shell of fear, right? We want to be enclosed in a place of comfort and assurance. So the area of healing is the emotional focus for this month is adoration. And when we are filled with adoration, we can't help but worship and see despair flee, right? Our ability to see our circumstances in the right light is crucial. What you see and the way you see it will be important. It's the perspective. Whether we can see the outcome of a situation or not is something that the Father assures us that He'll give us lenses for. He sees what's ahead. That's the important thing, right? He's going to give us a lens that we can see through. It may not be completely clear, but it's a lens that will protect us, if we allow it, from letting negative things come in to our sight and to our vision. We don't want to see those negative things. We don't want to hear those things. We want to just keep our eyes focused on what the Father is showing us. And even if it's dark, He's still leading us, right? So it's kind of like, I see it as having night vision, those goggles that allow you to see through the night. That's what the Father gives us. That's the supernatural element that we have as believers, that when we're in a dark place that feels just terrible, He gives us the visions. He says, here, put these on and keep going. So the action needed is watch your perceptions. This is the month to practice trusting in our source, the one and true living Elohim Yahweh. This can only come from this position of rest in Yeshua. The rest is an aspect of the letter Het, the letter that looks like a ladder standing on a wall on its side. As a living letter, one can imagine standing on the ladder or sitting on the fence. Consider the concept as a source of help, support, and protection. This year, before entering the straits, let's suit up and prepare to walk forth in faith. Undoubtedly, we will receive some scraping when we emerge. The scraping will require healing. However, the healing of a spiritual wound produces a protective shell, a barrier of strong faith. Remember, we may not see each other when we're walking in those dark places, but together we travel in spirit, in truth, and in Yeshua's light. Are these times of squeezing needed? Yes. Are these moments painful? Yes. But the radiant light of coming out of the straits is a vision to behold. It's a vision of divine transcendence. So I just would like to encourage everyone, because I know that every one of us has a story. Every one of us has traveled in a dark, narrow place in life. And I would encourage you to ask the Father to use your story to encourage someone else, because someone else is going to need to hear what you have to say. Your experience of coming out, the faith that you develop from that situation will encourage someone else. Because I think too often it's so easy for us to live in a place of isolation. And when I think of isolation, I think of darkness. We're just alone. But that's not what we're meant for. We're called to be lights of the world. We're called to be a light. And when we're together, how much more brighter is that light? So I would like to give you, just end with a little visual, because I'm so visual myself. I was thinking as I was speaking of this narrow, dark strait, right? That we don't know how long it will endure. We don't know how long we're going to be in that place. And we don't see who's with us around. But if you can just imagine a dark place and little pockets of light throughout that place, that's each and every one of us walking together in spirit. So may Yahweh bless you as you travel this month.
So good. Thank you, Rhonda. It's beautiful.
You're so welcome.